Okay, so let's talk about video. If you open your phone right now, I mean, chances are you're looking at video, right?
Absolutely. It's everywhere.
Whether it's like a 6-second viral dance or maybe a 20-minute deep dive explainer like this one, hopefully,
Yeah.
or a live stream. YouTube and TikTok, they're just the unquestioned giants.
Unquestioned, yeah. They really dictate cultural trends, don't they? They control
Yeah.
where our attention goes, and crucially, they own the revenue streams.
Exactly. They are, well, let's just say it, the dominant structures of online media today. Full stop.
Dominant, definitely. But according to the source material we're digging into today, they might also be seen as these kind of walled gardens of the past.
Walled gardens of the past. Okay, intriguing.
Yeah, we've got this foundational white paper here. It's really more like a manifesto, actually, for something called VibeOS.
VibeOS, okay.
And the proponents, they're positioning this not just as, another competitor app like Vimeo or something. No, they're calling it a direct YouTube and TikTok killer.
Whoa, okay. Killer. That's a bold claim. That's not just aiming high, that's aiming for the top spot immediately.
It is. And the claim isn't really about like slightly better features or a nicer interface. It's proposing a fundamental structural shift in how video is created, how it's stored, how it's governed, and crucially, how it's monetized online.
Okay, so this isn't just another platform, like you said, not Vimeo, not even a big streaming player like Netflix. This manifesto, it's suggesting creating an entirely new open video layer for the internet itself.
Exactly. Open, like HTTP for text, but for video.
Yeah.
That's the scale of the ambition here.
Wow. Okay, that's huge. And complex, I imagine.
Extremely complex. And that's why this is a deep dive, right?
Yeah.
Our mission today is really to unpack this intricate vision of VibeOS. It's a pretty dense document, honestly. It blends cutting-edge AI, specifically the semantic understanding of video content.
Semantic understanding. We'll need to break that down.
Oh, we will. So that AI, plus the core ideas of Web3 decentralization, think blockchains, crypto, that whole world.
Right. Ownership, immutability.
Exactly those things. And then it adds an entirely new economic model centered around this utility token they call VBE. So we need to figure out if this blueprint for what they're calling conscious media 4.0 is, a genuinely viable future, or if it's maybe just utopian tech fantasy.
Conscious Media 4.0. Okay. Before we dive into the deep tech weeds, maybe let's quickly frame the current landscape using their own terms, because they use some pretty provocative language to define the stages of media evolution, don't they?
They really do. They offer a very sharp critique of where we are now.
Yeah.
They argue that YouTube, even though it was revolutionary, nearly 2 decades ago now?
Yeah, it feels like ancient history in internet years.
Right. They say it's essentially television 2.0. Okay, anyone can publish, which is great, democratizing in a way. But the platform, Google, still owns the stage. They own the infrastructure. They own the all-important advertising rails.
So still centralized control, just with user-generated content layered on top.
Precisely. And then there's TikTok, which in their view is far more advanced technologically, but also, far more cynical.
Cynical how? More addictive.
That's exactly it. They call TikTok dopamine 3.0.
Dopamine 3.0.
Yeah. It's designed, they argue, as an attention slot machine, ruthlessly optimized purely for addiction and really short-term, fleeting engagement. It's not about meaning or building durable communities or helping creators build sustainable careers.
It's about keeping your eyeballs glued for the next 6 seconds.
Exactly. It's a perfect machine for generating viral hits, these explosive moments of fame, but maybe an exhausting one for, human attention spans and maybe even mental health in the long run.
Which brings us, I think, directly to the core philosophical problem that VibeOS is supposedly trying to solve, this idea of platform capitalism.
Yes. This is really where the white paper lays its ideological groundwork, and it doesn't pull any punches. It's pretty scathing. The central critique is that these platforms, YouTube, TikTok, maybe even others like Facebook or Instagram video, they promise to empower creators, empower the masses, level the playing field. Remember all that early Web 2.0 optimism?
Oh yeah, power to the people, user-generated everything.
Right. But, the argument goes, they quickly morphed into what this manifesto calls algorithmic attention farms.
Algorithmic attention farms. That paints a picture.
It does. They're seen as fundamentally extractive systems. They take our attention, our data, our creativity, and extract value primarily for their shareholders.
There's a real irony there, isn't there? I mean, the creators are the engine. They built the culture on these platforms. They generated literally billions, probably trillions of dollars worth of content that made YouTube and TikTok into these multi-trillion-dollar entities.
Absolutely, the creators of the value.
But the platforms themselves, they captured the value, that economic friction, that disconnect between who creates the value and who profits from it. That seems to be the defining conflict VibeOS wants to resolve.
It absolutely is. The white paper really digs into the specific economic complaints against these centralized systems. And, I mean, the numbers, when you look at them, are pretty stark.
Like what? Give us an example.
Okay, well, consider the YouTube model, the classic example. The creator depends entirely on Google's ad system, right?
Yeah.
Which is notoriously opaque. It's often inscrutable, even for people working full-time on the platform.
The infamous algorithm changes.
Exactly. We know Google takes a significant cut of the ad revenue generated on the creator's content. The generally accepted figure is around 45% goes to YouTube Google.
45%. That's nearly half right off the top.
Right off the top. But the complaint in this manifesto goes deeper than just the percentage cut, which is already high. It's that the 45% is compounded by the sheer instability of this algorithmic black box, meaning even successful creators, people making a decent living, find their livelihoods are incredibly fragile is the word they use. A single, often unannounced tweak to the recommendation algorithm or the monetization rules can just wipe out a creator's income overnight. We've seen it happen time and time again.
So stability, or the lack thereof, is the first major casualty of this centralized control. That makes sense. And then with TikTok, it's maybe not just fragility, but the sheer thinness of the monetization itself. Is that fair?
That's precisely how the paper frames it. TikTok is optimized for that fleeting, immediate virality. You can have a massive hit one week, hundreds of thousands, millions of views, maybe even billions, and then be completely forgotten the next week because the algorithm has just moved on. It's constantly seeking novelty.
So chasing trends becomes the job, not building something lasting.
Kind of, yeah. The source states pretty clearly that very few professional creators can actually build durable, multi-year careers solely on TikTok, because the distribution is so unpredictable and the direct monetization pathways are, quote, thin.
Thin how? Like the creator fund payouts are small.
Yeah, creator fund payouts are often cited as being relatively small compared to the views generated. Plus, they often rely on things like volatile tipping mechanisms or brand deals, which are hard to get consistently. Or that creator fund itself, which, again, is algorithmically determined and seems easily manipulated or changed by the platform without much notice.
Okay, so summing up the problem, you've got this centralized control that basically determines who thrives and who disappears. It's governed by proprietary, secret algorithms that are impossible for the creator or even researchers sometimes to audit or fully understand.
Right, black boxes.
The governance is completely top-down, decided in corporate boardrooms, and the culture we all generate, the videos we make and watch, it just becomes raw material for their advertising machines. That seems to be the fundamental complaint VibeOS has built to challenge.
It is, absolutely. The proponents argue that video as a medium is just too crucial now. It's how we learn, how we connect, how we organize politically, how we imagine our future. It's too important to be left solely in the hands of a few corporations whose primary fiduciary duty, legally, is to their shareholders, not necessarily to the creative community or the health of the information ecosystem.
That's a powerful argument. The medium is the message, and the ownership of the medium matters.
Exactly. And this is what, they argue, necessitates this crucial architectural shift we mentioned earlier. VibeOS isn't just another platform or app. It's defining itself explicitly as a protocol.
Okay, let's unpack this, because protocol sounds very abstract, very technical. For someone listening, what does it actually mean in practice if VibeOS is a protocol and not, say, just a new app like a Vibe app? How does that relate to the YouTube or TikTok we use every day?
Right, good question. Think of it in terms of foundational layers of the internet. YouTube, TikTok, Hulu, Netflix. These are all proprietary websites and apps that are built on top of the existing internet infrastructure.
Which itself is built on open protocols.
Exactly, like HTTP for web pages, SMTP for email, TCP/IP for basic connectivity. These are open standards that anyone can build on. VibeOS is envisioned as becoming something similar, but specifically as the video layer for the internet itself.
The video layer.
Yeah, meaning it would be open source, it would be interoperable, and critically permissionless. Anyone could potentially build an application that uses the VibeOS protocol underneath.
Interoperable. That feels like a really key word here.
It's absolutely crucial. The analogy they use in the white paper is quite powerful. and I think it helps grasp the scale of their ambition. VibeOS aims to be the Chrome moment for video.
The Chrome moment, like Google Chrome, the browser.
Exactly. Think back before Chrome and Firefox really took hold. Much of the web experience was dominated by a single proprietary browser, Internet Explorer, remember?
Oh, vividly. The dark ages.
Right. VibeOS wants to do for video what open browsers did for the web. They want to define the open standard for how video works online. If they succeed, current platforms like YouTube and TikTok might start to look like those walled gardens from the early web era, like AOL or CompuServe, where content was locked into one specific company's ecosystem.
So if VibeOS becomes this protocol, theoretically, hundreds of different front-end apps, maybe a VibeOS app for education, one for gaming, one for music videos, could all be built on the same underlying video protocol, sharing the same infrastructure.
That's the vision. Exactly. You could have competing interfaces, competing curation algorithms, competing user experiences, all accessing the same decentralized pool of video content stored and managed by the protocol, not by a single company.
Okay, so we're talking about foundational infrastructure, something that, if it actually succeeds, could genuinely democratize the underlying data and control. This shift in architecture from platform to protocol, it really underpins their whole philosophy, doesn't it? Which they title Conscious Media 4.0.
It does.
Let's just quickly review those 4 media stages they define one more time, because I think it really sets the stage for understanding the technology and the economics they're proposing.
Yeah, it's a useful framework. The progression they outline is intended to show sort of increasing democratization of creation, maybe, but also decreasing quality of attention and increasing platform control until their proposed leap.
Okay, what are the stages?
So stage 1 is TV 1.0, traditional centralized broadcast, highly controlled content, one-way communication from a few major networks to a mass audience.
Right, the classic model.
Stage 2 is YouTube 2.0. They call it user-generated television. So revolutionary because anyone can publish content. But as we discussed, the platforms still own the stage, they control the discovery, and crucially, they extract most of the financial value.
Got it. TV with more channels, basically, but the cable company still owns the pipes.
Good analogy. Then stage 3 is TikTok 3.0, the attention slot machine. Highly personalized feeds, incredibly engaging, but optimized primarily for addiction and these short-term dopamine hits. It prioritizes fleeting engagement metrics, often above meaning, community depth, or creator sustainability.
Okay, so faster, more personalized, maybe more addictive.
And then their aspiration, VibeOS 4.0. This is positioned as decentralized, sovereign, meaning creator-owned, AI native, built with AI at the core, and fundamentally participatory. It's underpinned by a philosophy that explicitly treats human creativity and attention not just as raw material for ad impressions, but as something more valuable, almost like sacred energy to be nurtured.
Sacred energy. Wow, okay. That's a powerful indictment of the status quo, framing it almost in moral terms.
It is. It's definitely positioning itself as an ethical alternative, not just a technological one.
But look, a philosophy is just words on a page, right? And protocols, especially ones trying to replace deeply entrenched incumbents with massive network effects, they rarely succeed overnight. It often takes years, decades even.
Absolutely. Building a successful protocol is incredibly difficult.
So if the philosophy is about sovereignty and conscious media, the technology underpinning it better be truly revolutionary to even stand a chance of backing up these huge claims. Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, the core technology. This trinity they talk about: AI, Web3, and edge computing.
Right. And this convergence, this specific combination of these 3 fairly recent technological revolutions, is genuinely what makes the VibeOS proposal unique, or at least interesting on paper. They argue that it's only by combining all 3 that they can build something resilient, efficient, and attractive enough to potentially compete with, or maybe even supersede, the centralized giants.
Okay, let's break them down. Let's start with maybe the most mind-bending piece, the AI native video engine. You said earlier it changes the very nature of a video file itself. They argue video shouldn't just be a dumb file, right?
Exactly. Think about how video works now on YouTube or TikTok. A video is essentially a massive static data file. You stream it sequentially, maybe with some smart buffering. It's stored in data centers, in chunks. And a platform only really knows what's in that video through the metadata. The creator provides the title, the description, the tags, and maybe a rough automated transcript.
Right, it's pretty basic information about the content.
Very basic. For VibeOS, the process is fundamentally different. When a video is uploaded, it's immediately ingested and transformed by AI. in what they call a semantic object.
A semantic object. Okay, what does that mean in practical terms for me as a viewer or a creator?
It means every single element within the video becomes machine readable and indexed, not just by the timestamp like at 2 minutes 15 seconds, but by the meaning. It's indexed by the scene composition, by the specific objects present, by the concepts being discussed, the people speaking, and crucially, as you picked up on earlier, even by the emotional tone of the segment.
Okay, hold on. Indexed by emotion. How is that actually determined, and how is it useful? That sounds potentially invasive or maybe just inaccurate.
It's definitely pushing the boundaries. The how involves multimodal AI. So the AI isn't just listening to the audio or reading the transcript, it's also watching the visual feed. It's analyzing facial expressions, body language, correlating that with tone of voice from the audio, and analyzing the sentiment expressed in the language used. It's trying to build a holistic understanding of the emotional content of each scene.
Okay, so it's combining multiple data streams.
Exactly. Now, usefulness. For a creator, imagine uploading a lecture or a product review. The AI could automatically identify the moments where the presenter is most excited, or where the tone shifts to skepticism, or where they introduce a complex new concept with a serious tone. This detailed indexing, this map of the video's intellectual and visual and emotional content, is what powers what they're calling the killer feature. Semantic seek.
Semantic seek. Okay, so this replaces the standard progress bar, the scrubber we all use.
That's the idea. Instead of just skipping 10 seconds forward or trying to guess where a certain topic was mentioned, you can directly query the video's content. It's like searching Google, but inside the video itself.
So instead of scrubbing back and forth trying to find that one part where they talked about, I don't know, Mars landings in a long documentary.
You could literally type or say, show me the moment when Elon Musk mentions landing on Mars. Or even more complex queries like, find the section explaining the main challenges of Mars colonization. The player would jump immediately to those specific semantically indexed moments, regardless of where they fall in the overall timeline.
That sounds incredibly powerful. Like moving from just browsing chapter titles in a book to having a fully searchable index of every single concept within the book.
That's a great analogy. You're moving from basic temporal seeking, skipping by time, to deep semantic seeking, skipping by meaning.
Give us another practical example. Let's move beyond the sort of tech demo Elon mentions Mars idea. How would this benefit, say, a professional user? Maybe a lawyer reviewing deposition footage or an educator using lecture recordings.
Okay, good examples. For an educator who uploads, say, a 3-hour seminar on contract law, a student doesn't need to rewatch the whole thing to revise a specific topic. They could query, show me every instance where the professor discusses tort law specifically in a corporate context. Boom, the player jumps to those precise segments.
Saving hours of manual searching.
Exactly. Or for a legal compliance team reviewing hours of recorded meetings or training videos, they could search a company town hall video for something like, did the CEO use the required forward-looking statement disclosure language during the Q3 financial results discussion? The system could instantly verify compliance by finding that exact semantic match. It transforms video consumption from a linear, often tedious process into true, high-speed information retrieval.
That fundamentally shifts the user experience, doesn't it? It goes from passive viewing, just sitting back and watching, to a much more active, almost conversational interface with the content itself. The player becomes conversational.
Exactly right, because the video isn't a static file anymore. It's this liquid media, as they call it, this database of meaning. The user can then command the player to perform complex tasks instantly using natural language.
What kind of tasks? The white paper gives examples, right?
It does. Things like, summarize this entire YouTube channel's output on the topic of regenerative agriculture, but give it to me in just 60 seconds.
Wow. An AI-generated summary of potentially hundreds of hours of content.
Yeah. Or, generate a remix of the 5 funniest 10-second segments from this comedy special and share them as a vertical short-form clip.
So instant remixing and reformatting.
Right. Or even leveraging the spatial understanding from the AI. Analyze the aesthetic of this music video scene and create an augmented reality filter based on it that I can try on right now.
Okay, that's verging on science fiction, but the potential is clear. It makes the video itself programmable, almost.
That's a good way to put it. Programmable media.
And this ability to manipulate and understand the media on the fly, that connects directly into their global strategy, doesn't it? What does this semantic layer mean for achieving immediate global reach, which is something YouTube and TikTok still struggle with in some ways?
It's central to it, Because the AI understands the content so deeply, it promises the ability to provide real-time, high-quality multilingual translation and, crucially, dubbing.
Dubbing, not just subtitles.
Yes, dubbing. They specifically emphasize using sophisticated voice cloning technology. The idea is that the video could be almost instantly available in dozens of languages, but crucially using a cloned version of the original creator's voice, maintaining their tone and intonation.
Okay, that's a huge leap beyond current auto-translate captions or robotic-sounding dubs. That could genuinely remove the language barrier for global audiences.
That's the goal. And it's essential if VibeOS seriously wants to capture markets outside of the typical English, Spanish, or Mandarin language dominance. It's key to their claim of being a truly global protocol.
But hang on, if the content is so easily understood, translated, remixed, and summarized by AI, what are the guardrails? What stops someone from using this tech to create convincing deepfakes, or malicious remixes that twist the creator's words, or generate inaccurate summaries? Who guarantees the authenticity of the original upload?
That is a absolutely critical challenge, and one the Manifesto tries to address directly by leveraging the second pillar, Web3 and decentralization.
Okay, how does Web3 help with authenticity and preventing misuse?
Well, firstly, the original video upload is time-stamped and cryptographically verified when it gets stored on the decentralized network. We'll talk more about that storage solution, like Arweave, in a moment. That creates an immutable record of the original file.
So you always have a verifiable source of truth.
Theoretically, yes, a permanent anchor. But regarding the AI functionality, the summaries, the remixes, the translations, the system is designed to track provenance. When a user asks the AI to create, say, a summary or a remix, that new output is clearly tagged as an AI-generated derivative. Its connection back to the original verified source is supposed to be immutable and transparent.
So you can always trace a clip back to its origin.
That's the design goal. The focus, they claim, is on empowering legitimate co-creation and accessibility, not enabling anonymous misinformation or deepfakes. There will likely need to be strong community governance around how these tools can be used too.
Which brings us to another AI feature mentioned, co-creation. The paper talks about the creator having an AI twin. What's that about? It sounds like the creator isn't just publishing content, they're publishing an interactive tool for fan engagement.
That's a great way to frame it. Absolutely. The idea is that a creator can train an AI twin based on their entire back catalog of content, their communication style, maybe even specific Q&A data they provide.
So it learns to talk like them, think like them based on their videos.
Essentially, yes, within defined parameters, of course. This AI twin could then interact with fans 247 in comment sections, dedicated chat rooms, maybe even virtual meet and greets. It could handle common questions, moderate discussions, maybe even participate in basic Q&A sessions based on the creator's known views.
Freeing up the actual human creator from that constant treadmill of community management and answering the same questions over and over.
Exactly. It allows the creator to scale their presence and engagement without burning out. Furthermore, the protocol is designed to enable direct, possibly token-incentivized, content co-creation between users and AI, or user to user. Imagine users being able to directly co-edit or remix segments of video using AI tools provided within the player interface, perhaps to create tutorials, critiques, or fan edits. It blurs the line between viewer and collaborator in a way that YouTube's current, fairly rigid interface simply doesn't allow.
Okay, so the AI makes the video smart, interactive, and globally accessible. But that raises the question, if the video is this liquid semantic object, who actually owns it, and where is it physically or digitally stored if not on Google's or TikTok servers? This moves us squarely into that second pillar. Decentralized sovereignty, powered by Web3. This seems like the direct answer to the whole platform capitalism critique.
It is the direct answer. The core thesis here is that creators should not be dependent on YouTube's servers, which can be expensive or have outages, or worse, dependent on TikTok's or YouTube's moderation whims, which often feel arbitrary, opaque, and politically biased to creators on all sides.
So no more sudden demonetization or channel deletion without clear recourse.
That's the promise. The storage solution proposed is built entirely on decentralized networks. The white paper specifically mentions technologies like Arweave and IPFS. These are protocols designed for immutable archiving.
Okay, let's pause there. Because most people, and even most businesses, are familiar with storing things on Amazon S3, or Google Cloud Storage, or Microsoft Azure, centralized cloud storage. Why the move to something different, like Arweave or IPFS? What's the benefit, and what's the trade-off? Is it slower? More expensive?
Good questions. The primary trade-off is permanence and censorship resistance versus perhaps the raw speed or immediate convenience of centralized systems. Centralized storage like S3 is generally very fast and relatively cheap for ongoing use, but you're renting space. The host company controls the data. They can raise prices, they could theoretically lose the data in a catastrophic failure, or, most critically for creators, they can delete your content if it violates their terms of service, which can change over time, or if they face legal or political pressure.
Okay, so how is Arweave different?
Arweave works on a different model. It aims for permanent storage. You pay a one-time fee up front to store data, and that fee contributes to an endowment that is designed to cover the costs of storing that data, theoretically, forever. It uses a blockchain-like structure called a block weave. Once the content is on the network and replicated across many nodes run by different people globally, it's incredibly difficult, bordering on impossible, for any single entity, including the original VibeOS developers, to delete it or censor it.
That's the key phrase then, immutable archiving. So no matter what happens to VibeOS as a company or the specific Vibe player app we might use today, the actual video content itself is permanently available on this decentralized ledger, owned cryptographically by the creator, and served by a global community network, not a single corporation.
That's the theory and the promise. No central company can delete your content. This is pitched as the ultimate form of creator ownership and sovereignty over their own work.
And this ownership extends beyond just the storage, right? It extends to the governance of the platform or protocol itself. That's another crucial Web3 element, moving away from corporate boards making all the rules.
Absolutely. If you truly want to escape platform capitalism, you need to decentralize not just the data, but the power.
Huh.
So, moderation policies, decisions about how the treasury funds are spent, upgrades to the core protocol itself and the VibeOS model, these are controlled by the community.
Through what mechanism?
Through open governance and what's known as a decentralized autonomous organization, or a DAO.
Okay, we hear the term DAO thrown around a lot in the Web3 space,
Yeah.
often with mixed results so far. Can you give us a practical, grounded analogy? How does governance via a DAO, as proposed here, differ from, say, community moderation on a platform like Reddit? They have volunteer moderators, too.
It's a difference in where the ultimate authority lies. With Reddit, yes, you have volunteer moderators for subreddits, but they operate within rules set by the centralized Reddit administration. Reddit Inc. can override moderators, ban entire communities, remove moderators, or change the rules globally whenever they see fit. They hold the ultimate power.
Okay. And in the VibeOS DAO model?
In a DAO structure, as VibeOS proposes it, the governance decisions are typically made directly by the holders of the native Vibe token, especially those who have staked that token, meaning locked it up as collateral, showing they have a vested interest in the network's health.
So token holders vote on proposals.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
If a creator posts controversial content, the decision about whether to remove it, how to label it, or how to handle a dispute between users wouldn't be made by a hidden VibeOS corporate employee, according to some internal policy document. Instead, it could be brought forward as a formal proposal to the DAO, debated openly, and then voted on transparently on-chain by staked community members, according to pre-agreed governance rules.
So the people with the most direct, verifiable skin in the game. Those who hold and stake the VibeE token and thus have an economic interest in the long-term success and integrity of the protocol are the ones who collectively make and enforce the rules. That is a fundamental rejection of the closed, top-down governance model we see on today's platforms.
It aims to be, yes.
Yeah.
It directly connects the economic stake in the network to the responsibility for its governance. Of course, designing fair and effective DAO governance is incredibly challenging, and many DAOs have struggled with voter apathy, plutocracy, or capture. But the principle is decentralization of power.
Right. A principle that's hard to implement perfectly. Now, let's look at the third pillar of the tech trinity, edge computing and global reach. This often gets overlooked, I think, in the excitement around shiny AI features or the ideology of Web3. But this isn't just about high-tech novelty. It sounds like it's about practical global accessibility, making it work for everyone, everywhere.
Precisely. And this might actually be one of the most pragmatic and potentially impactful parts of the whole proposal, especially if they genuinely want to challenge incumbents globally. They're deliberately trying to solve for latency, the lag in streaming, and for accessibility, particularly in the developing world or the global south, as the Manifesto calls it. This is identified as a massive, currently underserved audience for high-quality video experiences.
How is their approach different from how YouTube or Netflix deliver video now? They use content delivery networks, CDNs, right? Which
Hmm.
are already kind of edge
They
networks.
do use CDNs, which cache content closer to users. But VibeOS seems to be proposing something more integrated and computationally active at the edge. Centralized video distribution typically relies on huge, expensive, hyperscale data centers in strategic global locations, connected by these CDNs. VibeOS envisions using a more distributed network of GPU-enabled edge nodes. These could be smaller data centers or even potentially community-run nodes located much closer to the end users.
Okay, closer nodes mean lower latency, faster start times. That makes sense. But how does that specifically help someone in a region with poor internet infrastructure? Lower latency doesn't help if your bandwidth is terrible.
This is where the real ingenuity, they claim, lies in the compression technology, which they call smart compression, and it's tuned by AI.
Smart compression, how is that different from standard video compression like H.264 or AV1?
Standard compression works by removing redundant data within the video file itself, based on mathematical models. It's usually a one-size-fits-all approach for a given quality level. Current streaming services typically encode a video at multiple quality levels like 360p, 720p, 1080p, and then send the highest quality stream that they think the user's network can handle. If they guess wrong or the network conditions fluctuate, you get buffering or sudden drops to a blurry, low-resolution stream.
We've all experienced that
Or
frustration.
VibeOS's proposed smart compression is designed to be adaptive and context-aware, leveraging that AI layer again.
Adaptive how? What's it adapting to?
The AI supposedly learns in real time from each specific region's or even each individual user's network conditions. Is the latency high? Is the bandwidth consistently low? Is the connection intermittent, dropping packets? Based on this real-time feedback, the AI dynamically adjusts how the video is compressed and delivered.
So it's not just picking a lower resolution file, it's changing the compression itself.
That seems to be the idea. It might intelligently remove less perceptible detail, perhaps prioritize keeping the audio track perfectly clear over maintaining super high frame rates in the background, or dynamically adjust the bitrate packet by packet to ensure a consistent stream, even if it can't be full HD. The manifesto is very explicit that this technology is being developed specifically to address Global South bandwidth realities.
Okay, let's ground this again. Give me a specific scenario. If I'm trying to watch a complex educational VibeOS video on a shaky 3G network in, say, rural Kenya, what happens differently than if I try to watch the same video uploaded to YouTube there?
Okay. With YouTube on that connection, you'd likely experience either constant frustrating buffering pauses, or the player would aggressively downgrade the quality to maybe 240p or even 144p,
Yeah.
making any text or fine detail completely unreadable. It becomes almost unusable for learning.
Right.
With VibeOS, the smart compression AI would detect the poor, unstable network. It wouldn't just dumb down the resolution uniformly. It might prioritize keeping the speaker's face and voice crystal clear, while maybe slightly blurring complex background motion that isn't essential. It would use AI to understand the semantic importance of different parts of the frame and prioritize bandwidth accordingly. It would work constantly to adjust the data packets being sent to ensure a smooth, consistent viewing experience, even if that experience isn't pristine 4K HDR. The goal is usability and access over just raw quality numbers.
That makes a lot of sense because if VibeOS genuinely wants to be the global video operating system, it absolutely must be culturally and crucially geographically agile. It needs to be designed for the majority world's internet realities, not just for the privileged few with fiber optic connections in major Western cities.
Exactly. Accessibility is key to that global ambition.
Okay, so putting it all together, the AI makes a video smart, liquid, and easily translatable. Web3 provides the decentralized ownership, immutable storage, and community governance. And edge computing, with this smart compression, aims to make it fast, resilient, and globally accessible, even on poor networks. That creates the technical foundation. It's ambitious, to say the least.
Very ambitious. Each piece is cutting edge on its own. Integrating them seamlessly is a monumental challenge.
But the truth is, even the best technology doesn't matter in this space unless creators can actually make money from it, and ideally make money faster and more reliably than they do now. People follow the money. So we absolutely need to talk about the economic revolution promised in Section 3. The attention marketplace.
Right. And if the tech is ambitious, the economic proposal is where VibeOS makes its most compelling and perhaps most disruptive argument for creators to actually defect from the incumbents like YouTube and TikTok. This is where they try to hit them where it hurts,
Huh.
the wallet.
The core promise is just massive, isn't it? Creators capture 95% plus of direct revenue. That number jumps off the page compared to the roughly 55% creators keep from YouTube ads.
It's designed to jump off the page. It's a headline number meant to grab attention.
But let's challenge that number immediately, 95% plus D. Who pays for the remaining, let's say, 5%? Where does that go? And what costs are they perhaps conveniently excluding from that calculation? For example, does the creator have to pay separately for that permanent Arweave storage up front? That sounds like it could be expensive.
That's a crucial question, and the white paper does address it, though perhaps not with the level of granular detail some might want at this stage. The indication is that the remaining percentage that's sub 5% is primarily directed towards funding the DAO's treasury.
Okay, and the DAO treasury pays for what?
It's intended to cover shared protocol-level expenses, things like ongoing core protocol development and maintenance, security audits, which are vital in Web3, potentially funding grants for third-party app developers building on VibeOS, and importantly, rewarding those community members who act as curators and moderators, helping to maintain the quality and integrity of the network.
Okay, so it funds the commons, essentially.
Yeah.
But what about the big costs that YouTube or TikTok face, like massive bandwidth bills and operating huge global data centers? Does the creator end up paying for those indirectly?
This is where the model differs fundamentally. VibeOS, by leveraging decentralized storage like Arweave, where the cost is ideally one-time upfront fee for permanence, and decentralized edge compute nodes, which might be run by third parties or the community, perhaps incentivized by VibeE tokens, aims to avoid having those massive ongoing operational expenditures that centralized platforms face. So the creator doesn't pay for hosting in the traditional recurring sense. They might pay or stake tokens for the initial permanent storage, but that's framed as an investment in their own sovereign content archive, potentially one that generates yield or requires less capital over the long term than paying Google 45% forever.
So the cost structure itself is just radically different. It shifts from ongoing operational expense for the platform, passed on via ad cuts, to potentially a one-time capital expense for the creator for storage, plus protocol-level incentives funded by that small percentage and tokenomics.
Exactly. The economics are structured differently from the ground up. And the method for achieving this high payout percentage for direct revenue streams like ads, tips, subscriptions is pure Web3. Monetization flows directly from the viewer or advertiser to the creator's crypto wallet via smart contracts.
Eliminating the middleman. No Google AdSense taking its 45% cut, no platform holding on to funds for weeks or months. It's near instantaneous peer-to-peer value transfer mediated by code.
That's the promise, yes. It removes the corporate intermediary and the associated fees and delays. But it's crucial to understand it's not just about taking a smaller cut of existing revenue models. VibeOS is proposing to redesign the entire monetization engine itself, built around their native utility token, VBE. This token is meant to be the economic lifeblood, the circulatory system of the whole protocol.
Okay, so the VibeE token isn't just speculative crypto coin, hopefully. It has specific functions within this ecosystem. You mentioned it's both a utility token and a governance token for the DAO. Let's break down the utility side first. What can you actually do with VibeE tokens?
Right, utility is key for a token like this to have sustainable value. The white paper outlines 4, maybe 5 critical functions that are designed to generate continuous demand for and consumption of the VibeE token within the ecosystem.
Okay, number 1.
1. Transaction medium. It's intended as the primary currency for many interactions on the network. Things like viewers tipping creators directly, paying for premium subscriptions, or, very importantly, advertisers paying for those dynamic ad spots we'll discuss. Using VibeE for these might offer discounts compared to using traditional currency, driving adoption.
Okay, so payments. What else?
2. Storage credits and staking. As we touched on, to guarantee that immutable permanent storage on networks like Arweave, creators, or maybe even viewers wanting to support a creator, likely need to stake or burn VibeE tokens. This locks up supply and directly links token value to the amount of content secured on the network. If you unstake your tokens, maybe your guarantee of permanent archiving diminishes, creating an incentive to hold and stake.
Right, skin in the game for storage. 3rd?
3. Curation rewards. This is interesting. Users who actively contribute meaningful signal to the network, like accurately tagging content, verifying information within videos, filtering out low-quality or spammy content, essentially acting as distributed community editors, can earn VibeE tokens as a reward. This incentivizes quality control from the ground up.
So you get paid in VibeE for helping to make the platform better.
Exactly. And 4th, computation fees. Those advanced AI services, we talked about the real-time translation, the deep semantic search, the complex summarization, the AI-powered remixing, these aren't computationally free. They require significant GPU power, likely provided by the edge network. So, accessing these high-value AI features would consume small amounts of VibeOS tokens as microfees. Every time someone uses a powerful AI tool, it drives token velocity and demand.
Okay, that makes sense. Payments, storage, curation, computation. It sounds like the economic model is fundamentally tied to the actual utility and intelligence generated within the system, not just based on raw, undifferentiated views like the current ad model.
That's the design philosophy, yes. Value is linked to utility and verifiable contribution.
But the new monetization models themselves, especially around advertising, seem like they could be really disruptive if they work. Let's dig into those dynamic ad auctions. How is that different from buying ads on YouTube?
It's fundamentally different in its granularity. Today, an advertiser on YouTube typically bids to place their ad before, during, or after a whole video. Or they target based on the channel's genre, like gaming or beauty, or the viewer's demographic profile, age, location, interests based on Google's tracking. It's relatively broad, and often a lot of the ad spend is wasted on viewers who aren't interested in that specific moment.
Right, you get car ads on cooking videos sometimes.
Exactly. In VibeOS, because the AI has created that deep semantic index of the video content itself, advertisers can bid for specific moments within videos based on the actual meaning being discussed or shown.
Whoa, okay, that's hyper granular. So instead of bidding on a whole 20-minute video about electric cars,
Right. An advertiser, say a battery company, could bid to place a short, contextual ad only in the specific 15-second segment where the reviewer discusses battery life and charging speed. Or a travel company could bid to place an ad right before a segment mentioning travel destinations in Italy.
so the targeting is based on the viewer's immediate context and intent within the content itself, rather than just their historical browsing data or demographics.
Precisely. The idea is that this makes the advertising exponentially more relevant to the viewer in that moment, potentially less intrusive, and therefore much more valuable to the advertiser. It reduces wasted ad spend significantly. And because it's more valuable, the creator can potentially earn much higher revenue per minute of content for these highly targeted, semantically matched ad slots.
That could genuinely change the economics of niche content creation too, right? If you have a small but highly engaged audience interested in a very specific topic, advertisers could reach them precisely when that topic is discussed.
Absolutely. It could make specialized, long-tail content much more economically viable.
Okay, dynamic ads are one thing. Then the white paper mentions creator coins. This sounds like it formalizes the idea of like investing in talent before they become huge, almost like a stock market for creators.
It's leaning in that direction, yes. The concept is that fans could directly invest in creators by buying that creator's specific coin or token. They'd be trading reputation and attention like tokens, as the source puts it.
How would that work? If I buy a creator coin for a small musician I discover on VibeOS, what happens?
Essentially, you'd be buying a fractional stake, represented by that token, in that creator's future success on the VibeOS platform. As the creator's reputation grows, as their audience size increases, as their direct revenue from tips, ads, and subscriptions on VibeOS goes up, the underlying value or demand for their specific creator coin could also grow.
So early fans who believed in the creator get rewarded financially if the creator succeeds.
That's the idea. It turns the traditional creator-fan relationship, which is often quite passive, into more of a direct investment and a shared growth partnership. It gives fans a tangible economic incentive to support the creator long-term, share their work, and contribute to their success. It could lock in fan loyalty in a very powerful way.
That creates a really strong incentive for early discovery, engagement, and genuine community building around a creator. Very interesting. But maybe the real kicker, the thing that could attract mass adoption beyond just creators, is the idea of viewer rewards. We're so used to being the product online or attention being sold. VibeOS seems to be saying the community itself should be paid for its attention and positive contributions.
This is perhaps the most definitive economic flip proposed in the manifesto. It directly addresses that algorithmic attention farm critique we discussed earlier. The model includes mechanisms for viewers to earn Vibe tokens for what they call verified engagement.
Verified engagement, what does that mean? Just watching isn't enough.
Likely not just passive watching, no. It implies actions that demonstrably add value to the network. This could include things like watching content fully, providing thoughtful, high-quality comments that get upvoted by others, actively curating feeds by identifying good content or flagging bad content, perhaps providing accurate timestamps or tags for the AI to learn from.
So, by contributing positively, by making the platform experience better for others, you're essentially improving the VibeOS algorithm's transparency, its effectiveness, its quality.
Exactly. You are being paid in the native token for making the system smarter, more reliable, and more trustworthy. This mechanism aims to flip the old pyramid, as they say. Instead of all the value flowing up to the platform owners, a significant portion flows back down to the community members who actually generate the cultural capital and provide the signals that make the ecosystem work.
It sounds like a truly self-sustaining ecosystem, at least in theory. One designed to incentivize intelligence, quality, and positive participation, rather than just maximizing raw time on site through psychological tricks like infinite scroll or rage bait content.
That's the utopian vision, certainly. Whether it can work in practice against ingrained human behaviors and economic incentives is another question entirely.
Indeed. But okay, we've got the tech, we've got the radical economics, but media, fundamentally, is social. It's about connection, community, shared experience. So Section 4 needs to deal with the social fabric and how VibeOS envisions the user experience evolving beyond just better tech and fair pay.
Right. And the manifesto explicitly recognizes that the current emotional landscape of online media is, well, severely flawed. They use strong words. TikTok is described as addictive but empty. You get the dopamine hits, but maybe not deep satisfaction or connection.
And YouTube.
YouTube is seen as vast but lonely. There's an incredible amount of content, but genuine community interaction can feel shallow, lost in endless comment sections, or dominated by negativity. It often lacks real-time shared experience. VibeOS is attempting to fix this perceived emotional deficit by rethinking social interaction from the ground up.
How does it plan to move past that infinite scroll model, which seems almost synonymous with addiction in platforms like TikTok or Instagram Reels? Their core social concept seems to focus on the idea of the tribe. What is that?
Yeah, the tribe concept is central to their social vision. It's all about moving away from the monolithic, algorithmically sorted mass feed, like the TikTok For You page, towards more focused, potentially smaller scale, collaborative groups. VibeOS aims to facilitate the formation of interest-based microtribes.
Microtribes based on specific interests.
Exactly. The AI plays a role here too. It would help group users into these highly fluid communities based on shared interests, viewing habits, maybe even shared creation goals. And these tribes aren't static. They're expected to evolve as people's interests shift. The idea is that each vibe may be centered around a specific topic like permaculture gardening or 80s synthwave music, becomes a sort of living social feed.
A living social feed? What does it look like?
The paper describes it as being part discussion board, part co-creation lab. So within a tribe, you wouldn't just passively consume content related to that vibe. You'd discuss it, debate it, share related links, and potentially even use the VibeOS tools to collaboratively remix, annotate, or build upon the content together within that shared space.
That sounds much less like a general passive timeline and much more like a series of specialized, active, shared creative workspaces, which ties back neatly to that whole liquid media and AI co-creation concept we talked about earlier.
Precisely. It's designed to foster deeper engagement around shared passions, rather than just surface-level reactions to random viral clips.
If the social model is different, then the consumption experience itself, the way we actually interact with the video player, has to evolve beyond just hitting play and scrolling, right?
Absolutely. If the goal is participation, the interface needs to enable it. The reference app, the VibeOS player they describe, demonstrates how content becomes much more interactive.
What kind of features are we talking about?
Well, for starters, natively supported hybrid layouts, meaning the player can automatically handle both traditional horizontal video and vertical video, and potentially adapt its layout instantly based on the context, whether you're watching on a phone, a tablet, a desktop, or even potentially an AR or VR headset in the future. No more awkward letterboxing or forcing one format onto all devices.
Okay, better format handling. What else?
Integrated gesture navigation and voice control. This ties back to the conversational player idea. You should be able to control playback, search within the video, ask for summaries, trigger remixes, all using natural voice commands or intuitive gestures, making the interaction feel more fluid and less reliant on clicking tiny buttons.
So moving towards a more immersive and maybe less physically demanding interaction layer?
Potentially, yes. And they mention even more advanced immersive features, things like built-in watch parties, but enhanced with those AI co-hosts we speculated about earlier. Maybe an AI that can pull up relevant facts, answer questions about the content in real time, or facilitate discussion among the viewers in the party.
That could make watching documentaries or lectures much more engaging socially.
Or imagine embedded AR filters that relate to the video content, which participants in a live stream or watch party could use to interact with each other, or the content directly within the video player interface itself. The overall summary of the intended user experience is that it fundamentally shifts from passive watching to active, engaged participating. The platform actively wants you to do something with the video, discuss it, remix it, query it, share it meaningfully, not just absorb it and scroll on.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Let's try to synthesize all these differences. The manifesto provides its own comparison points, right? Let's use those to quickly reiterate the key differentiators between VibeOS and the incumbents. If a creator or even just an interested user is weighing the pros and cons, maybe thinking about the risk of jumping ship to a new, unproven ecosystem, what are the absolute core factors they need to consider?
Yeah, the contrast they draw is stark, and it's worth summarizing across the key metrics they highlight.
Okay, first up, ownership. Who owns the content and the platform?
Right. With YouTube and TikTok, it's clearly Google, Alphabet, and ByteDance, respectively. These corporations control the platform, they own your audience data, and their terms of service often grant them broad licenses over your uploaded content. VibeOS, by contrast, is pitched as creator-owned and fundamentally decentralized. You own your content cryptographically, and the protocol itself is governed by the community DAO.
Big difference. Okay, next, monetization. How do creators get paid?
Centralized platforms use those opaque, algorithmically determined payout systems, like AdSense or creator funds, and take significant cuts from advertising, like YouTube's 45%. Monetization is often slow and unpredictable. VibeOS promises direct peer-to-peer payments via smart contracts for things like tips and subscriptions, plus those hyper-efficient dynamic ad auctions, all aiming for that headline 95% plus creator revenue capture with near-instant payouts to a crypto wallet.
Huge economic difference, if it works. That about the algorithm. How is content discovered?
Current platform algorithms are notoriously closed-source, opaque black boxes. They're often optimized purely for maximizing engagement metrics and time on site, which can lead to prioritizing addictive, polarizing, or low-quality content. VibeOS promises a transparent, potentially auditable algorithm. It's described as an AI plus social graph hybrid, hopefully optimized for relevance, quality, and fostering that deeper community connection within the tribes, not just raw addiction.
Transparency versus the black box. Okay, format. How is video treated?
Today, video is mostly static long-form files, YouTube, or highly rigid short-form vertical clips, TikTok Reels, Shorts. It's hard to reuse or remix content across formats easily. VibeOS, with its AI engine, treats video as modular atoms or reusable semantic moments. It's that liquid media concept designed inherently for reuse, remixing, searching, and adaptation across different contexts and interfaces.
Liquid versus static makes sense. Finally, maybe the most practical point for creators day-to-day, speed.
Yeah, this is a crucial practical differentiator, they claim. VibeOS promises potentially 10x faster creator payouts compared to traditional platforms, thanks to those instant smart contract settlements instead of waiting weeks or months for a bank transfer. And, maybe just as importantly for creators in many parts of the world, they also claim potentially 10x faster uploads, especially for large files, thanks to that smart AI compression technology that adapts to network conditions, combined with decentralized upload protocols.
Faster payouts, and faster uploads. Okay, that's a compelling package, especially the upload speed for people not on super fast internet.
It addresses major pain points.
That summary, contrasting those key points, really makes VibeOS sound less like just another video app and more like a fundamentally different kind of infrastructure, almost like a foundational layer that maybe the internet should have been built with for video in the first place, rather than relying on these centralized application silos.
That's certainly the narrative they're pushing, that this is correcting a historical mistake, in a way.
But okay, ambition is one thing, execution is another. To achieve this level of disruption, to actually build this protocol and get people to use it against trillion-dollar incumbents with decades of scaling experience and massive network effects, you need a serious, multi-year strategic plan. Let's get into Section 5, the strategic roadmap and the ethical implications. I really want to challenge the feasibility here. Can they actually onboard enough creators and then viewers to challenge the powerful network effects of YouTube and TikTok? That seems like the mountain they have to climb.
It is undoubtedly the central strategic challenge. Network effects are incredibly powerful moats. They know they can't compete on sheer content volume or existing user base overnight. It's impossible. So their strategy seems to be about competing on sovereignty, economics, and technology, targeting specific vulnerabilities and disenfranchised user groups first. The roadmap laid out is highly phased, clearly recognizing this needs to be a long-term build.
Okay, let's look at the phases. Phase 1, covering year 1, seems very deliberately targeted. It's described as creators first. What does that mean in practice? Who are they going after?
It looks explicitly mercenary, in a good way for creators. The primary goal in year 1 is to target and attract mid to high tier YouTube creators who might already be feeling disenfranchised by demonetization, algorithm changes, or the 45% cut. They're also targeting successful musicians who often struggle with fair compensation on existing platforms and professional educators who could greatly benefit from the semantic search and AI tools.
And how are they attracting them? Just with the promise.
With the irresistible bait, that potential 95% plus revenue share, the faster payouts, and the allure of owning their content and audience through liquid creator tokens and NFTs, they need to acquire significant cultural capital to kickstart the ecosystem, and it looks like they're planning to essentially buy it by offering radically better economics and genuine ownership to those key early adopters.
Get the influential creators first and hope the audience follows. A classic playbook, but maybe set to charge by the Web3 incentives.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, so let's say phase 1 works. They get some traction, some well-known creators jump ship, and an early adopter community forms. What's phase 2? It looks like this is where they pivot from just being an app to building out the true protocol vision.
That's exactly right. Phase 2, projected for years 2-3, is called Protocol Open Source. This is the critical juncture where they plan to open up the full developer software development kits, SDKs.
SDKs, so other people can build on VibeOS.
Yes. The vision here is explicitly to enable and encourage third-party developers to build their own custom applications on top of the VibeOS protocol. Imagine specialized video classroom apps for education, new kinds of interactive video gaming interfaces, dedicated music video platforms, maybe even AR/VR social spaces for shared viewing experiences, all plugging into the same underlying open VibeOS video infrastructure for storage, streaming, AI features, and monetization rails.
Ah, so that's how they become the video layer for the internet. They encourage others to build the specific niche applications, while VibeOS focuses on providing the core common infrastructure.
Exactly. It establishes VibeOS not just as a single destination app, but as a foundational standard, the video operating system of the decentralized internet, as they put it. It makes it much harder for a single competitor to kill them if they become embedded as infrastructure.
That's a pretty genius long-term strategy if they can pull it off. If you can't beat the apps directly, become the indispensable operating system they all have to build on eventually. Very Microsoft-esque in a decentralized way.
It has echoes of that platform strategy, yes.
But the ultimate control mechanism, the DAO, the decentralized governance, that doesn't come fully into play until later in the roadmap, right? They're not handing over the keys immediately.
Correct. Phase 3, penciled in for years 3-4, is focused on implementing full decentralized governance. This is the point where the community, through the DAO structure, is intended to take over significant control.
Control over what specifically?
Over things like managing the DAO treasury, that percentage collected from network activity, voting on proposals for protocol upgrades and new features, setting the rules for the dynamic ad auctions, and, critically, establishing and running the community-driven systems for dispute resolution and content moderation.
So this is the safeguard against the founding team or initial investors keeping too much centralized control long-term.
That's the intention. It's designed to ensure that the system, once it achieves a certain level of maturity and success, cannot be easily captured and re-centralized later on. It aims for progressive decentralization.
Okay. And then the final phase, phase 4, seems the most ambitious in terms of global scale, tying back strongly to those edge computing and smart compression efforts we discussed.
Yes. Phase 4, looking at years 5 and beyond, is about becoming the true global layer. This phase envisions deeper integration, potentially partnerships, with telecommunications companies and edge infrastructure providers, especially ISPs in the developing world.
Why specifically telcos and ISPs?
To get VibeOS potentially pre-installed or deeply integrated into network infrastructure, making it the default, or at least a highly efficient, option for video delivery. The ambition here is incredibly high, aiming for widespread adoption, particularly in the Global South, as the default low-bandwidth, high-efficiency video protocol. This fully leverages that smart compression tech we talked about.
So becoming almost like a utility, like TCP/IP is for data.
That seems to be the ultimate aspiration. And this phase also explicitly includes integrating native interfaces for VR and AR as consumer hardware for the metaverse, or whatever we call it, evolves. They clearly view global accessibility, built on scarcity-aware technology, as their path to becoming an indispensable utility, not just another niche streaming service for the wealthy world.
That's a long and incredibly ambitious roadmap. Years, potentially decades of work. But okay, beyond just the technical and strategic roadmap, the white paper itself carries a strong ethical dimension throughout. It's constantly positioning VibeOS not just as better tech, but as morally superior to the current platforms. They are actively criticizing the ethical choices or lack thereof of the incumbents.
They absolutely are. The critique is woven throughout. They argue quite forcefully that current platforms actively optimize for addiction. They contribute to deepening societal polarization through algorithmic filter bubbles and the promotion of outrage content. And fundamentally, they exploit human attention as if it were just another raw, infinitely mineable resource rather than something finite and valuable.
Strong words. So how does VibeOS position itself as the ethical antithesis? What specific guardrails, as they call them, are built into the protocol design itself to prevent these same problems from emerging, even with decentralized governance?
It's a valid concern. Decentralization doesn't automatically equal ethical outcomes, but they do highlight three main structural guardrails that are intended to be mandated by the protocol's design, differentiating their approach from, say, Facebook's or Google's often reactive PR-driven ethical AI initiatives.
Okay, what's the first guardrail?
1. Transparent algorithms. This is a big one. The recommendation algorithms, how content is surfaced to users, are intended to be transparent and potentially even auditable. The goal is for users to understand precisely why they are seeing a particular piece of content, what factors influenced its ranking in their feed. This, they argue, builds user trust and agency and directly combats the hidden manipulation and potential for polarization inherent in opaque black box algorithms. You should, theoretically, be able to query the system about your own feed's logic.
Transparency as an antidote to manipulation. Makes sense.
Second, 2. Community moderation. As we discussed with the DAO, content moderation and dispute resolution are designed to be handled primarily by the staked community members, operating under clear, publicly agreed-upon rules, rather than by a centralized, often culturally detached, corporate content policy team. The hope is that this leads to fairer decisions that account for local context and reduces the likelihood of centralized censorship or bias.
Decentralized justice, essentially, though that comes with its own challenges, like potential mob rule or inconsistent enforcement.
Absolutely. No system is perfect, but it shifts the locus of control. And the third guardrail is more about inclusion and sovereignty. Beyond just content moderation, features like the built-in real-time multilingual dubbing using voice cloning and the AI-powered smart compression designed for low-bandwidth networks are presented not just as technical features but as ethical imperatives. They are designed to ensure truly global access and participation, not just for privileged regions, making the system inherently more equitable and less biased towards dominant languages or infrastructures by design.
Okay, so transparent algorithms, community governance, and technology designed for radical inclusion. The fundamental goal, then, really isn't to maximize raw time on site through that infinite scroll, is it? It's something different.
Exactly. The stated goal is to facilitate meaningful connection and enable valuable creative production and learning.
It sounds like a fundamental philosophical divide in what the purpose of a media platform even is.
I think it is. They want intelligence, education, collaboration, and maybe even wisdom to flow through the network, not just algorithmically amplified, often disposable, viral content designed to capture fleeting attention. The manifesto is quite clear. The aim isn't just stealing eyeballs from YouTube or TikTok. It's about liberating creativity from platforms and giving sovereignty, ownership, control, economic reward back to the individual creators and the participating communities.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this. What does this all mean at the end of the day? We've covered a massive amount of ground here, from the truly radical concept of video as a programmable semantic object to that eye-popping 95% revenue share promise, the intricate Web3 mechanics of DAOs and tokens, and the critical reliance on edge computing and AI compression for reaching emerging markets. Where does this leave us?
Well, I think it means VibeOS, or at least the idea of VibeOS presented in this manifesto, isn't really competing head-on with YouTube or TikTok purely on content quality or even sheer content volume, at least not initially. It knows it can't win that game right away.
So what is it competing on?
It's competing on fundamentally different axes. On sovereignty, offering creators true ownership and control. On transparency, promising open algorithms and governance. On intelligence, embedding AI deeply to make video more useful and interactive. And on economics, offering a radically fairer value distribution. It trains human creativity, as we mentioned, almost like that sacred energy, something intrinsically valuable to be amplified and owned by the creator and community, not just treated as cheap raw material to feed an advertising machine. It's a foundational challenge to the entire business model and power structure of centralized media distribution as we know it today.
So the killer app ultimately isn't a specific feature like semantic search or creator coins, even though those are cool. The killer app is the bundle of sovereignty, ownership, and fair economics itself. It's a promise of liberating creativity from platforms.
That seems to be the core value proposition, yes.
Yeah.
It marks a potential shift, a fundamental transition, from the current focus on optimizing content flow, just getting more videos in front of more eyeballs, which is what YouTube and TikTok primarily sell to advertisers, towards enabling and valuing intelligence flow. That's what VibeOS, with its AI and participatory structure, seems to be promising.
Intelligence flow, meaning the ability to search, understand, remix, translate, collaborate with the content.
Exactly. It posits that the real future of video isn't just passive consumption, but active computation, meaningful participation, and, maybe most importantly, true, verifiable ownership of both the content and the platform itself.
Which brings us back, interestingly, to one of the most, well, almost mystical lines in the source material. A statement that really tries to elevate this whole project beyond just being a complex, ambitious tech startup.
Ah, you mean the line about abundance?
Yeah. The Manifesto actually states, quite remarkably, that the impending age of abundance was prophesied in the scriptures thousands of years ago. Now, setting aside the specific religious framing, let's consider the core idea.
Okay.
If VibeOS, or maybe some other similar protocol built on these core principles, decentralized storage, AI native understanding, community ownership, tokenized economics, if something like that actually succeeds in liberating video content from centralized silos, and if it genuinely shifts the dominant economic model away from the current paradigm of manufactured scarcity, the scarcity of human attention that advertisers pay dearly for, towards a new model based on abundance, the abundance potentially unlocked by community ownership, by open protocols, by the utility of AI making content infinitely searchable, reusable, translatable.
Right, an abundance of utility and access rather than a scarcity of attention.
Does that kind of fundamental shift actually change the basic nature of digital commerce and online culture? Could a truly decentralized, intelligent, and participatory media layer like this actually realize a form of digital abundance where creativity is rewarded more directly, knowledge is more accessible, and value is shared more widely, an abundance that was previously thought impossible under the constraints of the centralized, attention merchant internet we have today?
That is a profoundly provocative thought to end on. Does changing the architecture of our digital public square fundamentally change the possibilities for human interaction and economic exchange within it? Can technology, structured differently, lead us towards that prophesied abundance? Something definitely worth mulling over perhaps next time you find yourself scrolling through your current, maybe less than sovereign video feed.